This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs. Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios on historic Campus Quarter, a rainy Campus Quarter here on a Thursday, July 3rd, headed into 4th of July weekend. Happy 4th of July, George. Headed up to the lake this weekend.
Yeah,
hopefully the rain clears out of here before we make our way up.
It does feel like it rains every year on 4th of July because you always hear about fireworks getting canceled. I want to say last year, because we were out at the lake, and I want to say the 4th of July fireworks show got moved to the 5th last year. So.
Okay, well, we could do that. I mean, that'd be a move to Saturday, but either way, one of the better holidays of the year, as we discuss on the Unofficial 40. You could listen to that here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. You were down in Thibodaux, Louisiana. We talked about the John Mateer stuff. You dropped the first portion, or the part one of kind of John Mateer's story today, and thank you to Eskridge Lexus for getting you down there. All you got to do is go to Eskridge Lexus up in, I would say, northern Oklahoma City / Edmond, southern side of Edmond. EskridgeLexus.com. Got the popular GX that are coming into stock. Just get with our guy Ed Eskridge over there. Tell him SoonerScoop sent you, and they will take care of you. The travel sponsor of SoonerScoop.com. Been with us for the last couple of years now. It's much easier to travel when you know that you're going to be riding in style.
I texted you during, I was like, man, this is a sweet car. And I was driving the NX, and it was awesome. And they've got all the new features in it, you know, where you put it on cruise control. It's basically driving the car for you. It's awesome.
Once we get through wedding weekend, maybe we'll get George into a Eskridge Lexus. Welcome back, though. This is the Around the Quarter. Thank you to Eskridge Lexus. Taking all your questions from the Crimson Quarter. I think that it's kind of starting to get into the air, like the feel of football. We were just talking before we started, you know, with basketball over now, with the Thunder and the championship done. Summer League is going to be good. Maybe see toe pitch a little bit, but it definitely feels like football is right around the quarter.
Yeah, I mean, every year it's around this time. It's like you get through 4th of July. That's kind of your last little break. Media days hit you right in the face, and then all of a sudden, you know, fall camp, July 31st. I mean, we will see football practice probably this month.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's exciting, and I know that I think this is where the fans start to get a little antsy.
Yeah, I would imagine so. We've talked about the John Mateer story, though, and you know, it's a unique one, and I think that it offers plenty of storylines headed into 2025, particularly somebody that, let's be honest, 3-4 years ago, maybe even 6 months ago, we probably weren't too familiar with John Mateer and what he was doing.
No, I remember you and I driving back from several games when you knew that they were looking at Ben Arbuckle as, you know, the offensive coordinator, potentially as the hire, and it was like, well, could he bring this John Mateer with him? And I remember we watched highlights like, okay, this guy's got some talent, and we just hadn't seen a ton of him, you know, on TV just because he was playing in a smaller conference, you know, and they weren't playing a ton of Power 5 teams, and they were playing late at night, and he had a great year. And, you know, I would encourage you to go watch his YouTube highlights because they're pretty awesome. But, yeah, now all of a sudden he's really blown up into, you know, a guy that a lot of people think is one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
A long ways from somebody that was certainly not recruited at the level that you would think an Oklahoma quarterback would be. That's where we'll start this week, talking John Mateer, Suitor 76. So why did practically everyone miss on this guy? Is it as simple as wins and losses? If so, Nagy and company are hopefully closely monitoring these types more. And, you know, we've talked about this. We've talked about it off air. We've talked about it on the Unofficial 40 this week, as well as a couple times here during practice reports. It's just one of those things that he went under the radar. And, you know, you mentioned it, a lot of it, I don't know about a lot of it, but some of it probably had to do with somebody looking at a box score every Friday night. I think it was one of the games against, was it a game against Allen that they didn't even get his name right? They were calling him Josh Mateer.
Josh Mateer, and he threw for like 500 yards and 5 touchdowns in that game his junior year. But I think it was several things. One, he didn't have a great freshman or sophomore year. He was the starter for Little Elm, but, you know, statistically, he didn't have a good year, turned the ball over a lot. They didn't win a lot of football games. Junior year had a really solid season, and that's kind of when he got onto the map in some of these smaller schools, Central Arkansas, Incarnate Word, which was home to Eric Morris and Cam Ward, who ended up going to Incarnate Word, then Washington State, then Miami. And it was really, he just kind of flew under the radar. They weren't winning a lot of football games. He wasn't the biggest guy. And I think that's one thing with Mateer too, is that you saw his senior year of high school, but also his first couple years at Washington State when he got into a real weight training program. He put on about 30, almost 40 pounds now. He was playing at like 190 in high school. He's up to almost like 228 now in college. So I think that he's one of those guys that, one, was playing for a program that people didn't really know about, wasn't very good as freshman or sophomore year like some of the highly recruited quarterbacks are, and then he just developed over time. And really, I think those first 2 years at Washington State, Eddie, where he was able to sit behind Cam Ward, learn a system under Eric Morris and then Ben Arbuckle, I think that helped him tremendously. And now you're seeing him kind of grow into this player that, Eric Morris and some of these other coaches at these smaller schools saw that maybe the potential could be there in a few years. That big schools, they're spending their time elsewhere. They're spending their time on guys that, from freshman or sophomore and even early junior year are superstars.
Sure.
And guys that are well known. So I think that it just happens. Every once in a while you have guys like this. I mean, Baker Mayfield was the same way, right? He wasn't somebody who was highly recruited. Texas Tech took a flyer on him, ended up developing into a damn good quarterback, one of the best that this program has certainly ever seen.
John Mateer, his play on the field will certainly be connected with the win total going into next season. And that's what this point is, or this time period is, talking season, prognosticating on what's going to happen with this team. Many outlets have already brought their win totals out. Bruce Skittles asks, I know posters like to say we're a few plays away from 8 wins, but we're also a few plays away from winning 4. We scrapped out some dubs last year too, and to teams like Houston and even Tulane were dogfights. Auburn was a lucky dub. I believe we lost 5 games by double digits. That's not a team closer to 8 wins than 4 wins. Floor is 5, ceiling is 8, George.
Yeah, I understand where he's coming from, and he's right.
It's certainly not the part that we talk about, right?
Right, and he's right. OU definitely got lucky.
No Kip 6.
Yeah, I mean, the Houston game, there's a very real scenario where, I think Houston had
Grayson
the ball.
Halton doesn't get the game sealing safety in the fourth quarter.
I mean, there was a legitimate chance they lost that game. The Tulane game, the pick 6 in the fourth quarter. If they don't get a turnover late in that game, they don't win. So I certainly get his point, but I do think that you look at last year as a whole, and if they can improve on offense this year and keep that same consistency on defense, well, some of those games that you're talking about that were close wins probably weren't close wins. They probably win those games more handily, right? And then the games that were close, you do maybe win, and or the games that you threw away, like a Missouri or even a South Carolina that was over in 5 minutes, maybe you win those games. So I think the floor for this group is probably around 6 or 7 wins. And I think the ceiling is somewhere at 8 to 9. I really don't think it's like this huge gap. I think that's where Oklahoma's going to be next year. Maybe they could get to 10 with a really great year. Maybe they get some breaks, and maybe they have some breaks the other way and it goes really sour and they win 5 or 6. But I think it's somewhere in that 7 to 9 win range is where Oklahoma is, and it's going to come down to games, on the road and in some of these big environments.
Certainly, everybody has the week 2 matchup with Michigan circled, and we talked about it this week on the Unofficial 40, getting to 5-0, going into the Cotton Bowl. I think for the most part, most over-unders that you're seeing for Oklahoma, somewhere in between 6.5, 7.
Yeah.
Maybe you could find a 7.5 if you really had a good bookie. Let's be honest about it. All right, we will continue on. A lot of these guys that we're going to talk about will play a part in what Oklahoma is able to do on the football field. Let's start with PJ, some team belief as well. Sooner Dog 17, 3-parter here. We'll go step by step. Anything you've heard on PJ turning the corner this summer, or not so much?
I think that he's had a really good summer. It's one of those things where he's great in the weight room. There's no question about that, right? It's what can he do on the field when he gets out there in pads. And I thought he had a really good spring. I think you still want to see some more burst from him and some of that aggressiveness from him. I think this is a huge camp. This is a huge camp for PJ. We heard things last year that he was going to maybe get on the field a little bit more, and he just, had some injuries and we didn't see it. So this is a huge year for him. And again, it's tough in the summer. Everybody's great in the summer. But I think that there's hope that he can be a player this year for them.
Maybe even more so just to make it through August as well.
Yeah. Yeah, be healthy.
Just be healthy in general. It seems like there's always been something nagging him.
He just needs to get on the field. He needs more reps. I mean, that's the biggest thing with him.
No doubt. All right, we'll go to option number 2 or item number 2. Do you get the sense there's a lot of genuine belief inside the building for this team, like they think they can be really good? That would probably kind of correspond with some of the reporting that you came out of Louisiana with and talking to John Mateer.
Yeah, there's a lot of belief in that locker room, and I think it's kind of a quiet belief. This isn't a group that wants to tell you that they're going to be great, but I know talking to John Mateer, it's just a pretty big quiet confidence, I would say, that especially on offense that they're going to be pretty good, definitely better than last year. And defensively, I think that they're confident because they've done it, and they've got so many guys back. I know they lose obviously their leaders in Stutzman and Bowman, but I think that they know that they have a lot of really good players on that side of the ball. And with Brent taking over, I think that's also another part of that confidence is they know that he's going to be well prepared as the defensive coordinator.
Of the many trips that we have ahead, and especially in conference play, going to some new places this year, Knoxville won't necessarily be new, knowing that they went there in 2015. Is Tennessee now a game since Nico left that you have to win or should win?
That's a tough question. I'm never going to say you have to win that game on the road in Knoxville. That would be really high expectations. But when you do look at that game, I think it's more of a game Oklahoma can win. I don't know if it should. I think that they, if they want to get to the playoff, probably it needs to fall in that have to category. Like if you're talking about 9 wins next year, winning at Tennessee is probably one of those games that you could circle and say that they can go win that one. So I don't know, Eddie. That's tough, but it's certainly one. I think Tennessee, South Carolina, those two, especially on the road, are games Oklahoma can win, and if they want to reach the playoff, probably have to.
November 1st, November 8th, going to be interesting to say the least. Knoxville and Tuscaloosa back-to-back. All right, I believe they are giving you shit, George. This is from the podcast thread, George marrying into Grand Lake. I wasn't familiar with your game. Yes, you did very well, both on and off the court.
Yeah, no, very blessed. Grand Lake's awesome. I know you've been up there a few times.
Big fan of Grand Lake, especially 4th of July weekend. They do it I would say is right.
So when I was growing up, we didn't go to the lake because I didn't have a ton of friends that had lake houses up there. So, but we always heard the great stories of going up to Grand for the 4th of July and just for the summer. And so now that I've gotten to experience it now the last couple summers, it's pretty awesome.
Might have to put in under review. I thought you went to a private school. You didn't have friends with lake houses?
I did, but like they were, only one of my buddies really had a lake house up there. But, everybody in Tulsa, there was quite a few kids at our high school, Bishop Kelly, that had lake houses, but I wasn't somebody that was getting invited.
Sure.
I wasn't friends with those people.
That was always one of the rules, and I've put this out. I've outlined it on radio before that, during the summer as an adolescent, as a child, you have to find friends that are rich, that will take you places. And luckily,
I did it later in life.
Kind of 3 installments. It was like Grand Lake for a while, and then you moved into high school and it was Texoma, starting to dip your toes into the party session, and then you fall on the back end. So it was like all 3 of them.
Yeah, in Tulsa, it's 45 minutes to Grand Lake. It's perfect.
A little bit longer drive from Oklahoma City.
2.5 probably.
It gets long, and especially going the other way down to Eufaula is even longer. Sometimes it feels like. A lot of talk about Jim Nagy, a lot of talk about the front office. STL Sooner 19. Is this class, talking about the 2026 class, a sign of Nagy saying that he is fine going after offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and wide receivers in the portal and to just figure it out, or more of maybe a learning curve that you might have to overpay at those positions, or just too many battles in dealing with all they have going on right now with the OU brand?
I think, Eddie, and people aren't going to like this answer. It's kind of a combination of all those things.
And it's still a very small sample size, yet to be seen, I would almost say.
And that's what I keep saying. People want instant gratification, right? And I get that, especially when Oklahoma's coming off the season that they're coming off of. They want to go out. They want to win this year. But in terms of high school recruiting, I think you have to give this front office staff at least some grace period in terms of how they're doing this thing. Like, let's not forget that many of these guys that are leading the charge in scouting and evaluating and targeting some of these players they want to go after literally just joined the staff about a month and a half ago. And so that's a really difficult position to be on. I mean, Jim Nagy's only been here since really the beginning of March.
Sure.
And we saw what he did in the spring portal in a short amount of time. I don't think that he wants to build the offensive and defensive line through the transfer portal. Now, wide receiver, I think that obviously they want to add some kids in high school recruiting. I think you also have seen that you can go out and get one or two guys in the portal that can be good players for you at wide receiver and other positions. So I think that it's different for different guys. I think that you're seeing them kind of adjust, in live time in terms of who they're recruiting. So I would just say be patient. Let's see how this plays out with the end of this class. But I really think it's the 27 and 28 classes you're going to see what this actually looks like. With
the revenue sharing and everything that goes into the construction of a roster right now, there's still room for plenty of your money out there to be used, I'm sure, if you want to donate to NIL. Talking about donors, though, $1 silver member, quote, small donors giving $100,000 to $500,000. Laughing my ass off. How many folks out there do you think can cut that check each year? That's like 99.99th percentile.
So this was in, somebody was asking me the question in my mailbag about, does Oklahoma have a bunch of, or did they have a small amount of large donors, or do they have a bunch of small donors, donating a small amount that adds up?
Sure.
And it's my understanding Oklahoma has a very small amount of large donors that are, they're putting in the majority of the money. And let's just be honest about it. Tim Headington's one of those people, obviously, that is helping with NIL. My point was, if they can get more people in that smaller donor range that are donating $100,000 to $500,000 versus, tens of millions of dollars,
sure,
that adds up. And I understand. I'm not saying that there's just a bunch of people out there that can give $100,000. Obviously, there's not. But if you can get 10 of those folks, which I think there's probably 10 of those people and that are OU alumni that can give $100,000, well, that gives you $1 million. That $1 million can go a long ways. We've seen that. Or even people that can spend, $10,000, $50,000 somewhere in there. That adds up. And I think that that's where Oklahoma has to get better. They have, a handful of people that are giving millions and millions of dollars, and they're very grateful for those people. But if they can get another handful or two handfuls or three handfuls of people that can donate, $100,000 each or around that number, somewhere in that number, that, can add up to another 2, 3, 4, 5 million that I think could go a long ways in terms of roster building.
Put off that European vacation. I think everybody will understand. Just make the $70,000 donation.
And again, I'm not saying
NIL.
There's a lot of those people out there.
Sure.
I get it. It's a lot of money that you were talking about. But I do think there's a lot more people in that range that can give, $100,000 versus obviously people that are just handing out tens of millions of dollars.
At the end of the day, they can get more. There's no doubt about 100%. That, and I think that there are avenues, and it'll be funny how you start putting wins in the
you win
in the left side column, and all of a sudden that money just starts appearing out of nowhere.
If you start winning games, let's say they go win 10 games this year, make the playoff, and they're really competing at a high level. Some of those people that can give $100,000 are probably like, hey, you know what? I will skip that European trip this year. And
those people probably already went to Europe, so they're going to be coming back with, I guess, less money, but they'll be able to spend.
Exactly.
No doubt about it. All right, let's go. OU needs your money, folks, and they might need your help in the city hall as well. Talking about a new arena for the Oklahoma basketball programs, OU Bus Stop. Anyone who has been following this closely know whether we are still supposed to get a final decision on the new arena from the Oklahoma Supreme Court this week, or perhaps it will go into next week. Great question. I do not know.
So I do know. I spoke to a couple people last night about this, and it's my understanding they have no idea. OU is basically, so OU is basically waiting like everyone else. Essentially what's happening, if you remember, I think it was back in April or May, the judge ruled that the signatures to put this to a vote were invalid, which was a step in the right direction to get the arena. Well, that same group that tried to get the signatures that were invalid to, basically put this to a vote, which if it went to a vote, it would likely get voted down, I would think, by the people of City of Norman. But these people went back to the Supreme Court, took it to the Supreme Court and said, overrule the judge's ruling.
Right.
So now they're waiting on the Oklahoma Supreme Court to basically say, oh, the judge was right or the judge was wrong. These votes were invalid. I think Oklahoma feels confident that the Oklahoma Supreme Court is going to rule in their favor. We'll see, but you never know with these things. I do think OU believes this is the last hurdle. This has already, delayed the whole project by a year or so. So if they can get this ruling, which they were told back in whenever, I think it was May, that it would be early June that they would find out, and now it just keeps getting pushed back from the Oklahoma Supreme Court. So maybe we find out next week, or maybe we don't find out for a few months. Who knows?
Kind of crazy to think that they might be at that final stage that
That's
you
what they
could
think.
get maybe some shovels in the ground by the end of next season.
I know that they have been talking to developers in coming up with how they're going to start building, when they're going to start building. Obviously, we've seen sort of the renderings, but they would have official renderings of like, this is what it's going to look like. Here's the date. So as soon as they get this ruling, I think that they're going to start, breaking ground on this thing.
Maybe have to start looking for that here, maybe at the beginning of next week into the coming weeks here. Maybe before we go to Atlanta for SEC Media Days or something like that. All right, we will continue on Postman 700. Forget EA's top 10 OU players. I want to know who is your top 10 on the OU roster.
So I answered this in the mailbag, and I can't remember my answer. I don't know if you can pull up.
I can pull it up.
Pull up my mailbag. But
I mean, obviously, do you start with John Mateer and Jaden Otter?
I put R. Mason Thomas number one.
Okay.
And the reason I did so, I kind of based it off of where did I think these guys would get drafted right now. And I think R. Mason Thomas is a first-round draft pick. I really do. And I think it's his twitchiness, his athleticism, all of that. I think I had Mateer 2 and Jaden Ott 3. And I can't remember where I went after that.
Linebacker 4.
Kip Lewis.
Kip Lewis 4. Jaden Jackson 5. Deion Burke 6. Grayson Holton 7. Robert Spears Jennings 8. Eli Bowen 9. Kendall Daniels 10.
Yeah, and Kendall was a tough one because I thought about putting him higher, and then I thought about leaving him off the list. I think this is a huge year for him because if he goes out and plays extremely well, he's going to get drafted. If he plays like he did last year at Oklahoma State, it's probably one of those guys that would maybe get drafted in the late round. So it's a tough group. Is there anybody on there that you think I left off?
I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to rack my brain real quick. I mean, obviously, Michael Fasusi.
So I didn't want to put guys that I didn't want to put guys that haven't played yet.
Right.
I wanted to base this off of guys that we've seen at least play college football.
I don't think that there's anybody truly omitted. I do think that, and this is coming in the next couple of days, we're doing the Crimson Countdown. I was responsible for Grayson Holton, and I think that sometimes when we talk about the defensive line, and obviously they're extremely talented. There's some people, including somebody like Phil Steele, that feel like they might be one of the better defensive line groups in the country. We kind of forget about Grayson Holton and how good he was a year ago. Second most sacks on the team. I think it was the fourth most tackles for loss. Had 30 tackles on the year. He's just another one of those elements that, if this group is going to be as good as they think they could be, it would be because of somebody like him.
Definitely. I think he could have a monster year this year. And being now in his fourth year in the program, you have to wonder, what's that next step look for him? And he could have gone to the NFL last year. I mean, he was somebody that we were kind of had to ask around, like, hey, is he coming back?
Sure.
And I think it was the right decision to come back because if he has another great year, if he could stack 2 great seasons in a row, he's a guy that I think could go day 2 in the NFL draft.
And much like Michael Fasusi or Ryan Foje, maybe even over on the other side of the ball as they get more experience. Jacoby Johnson, it sounds like, has had a really good summer.
There's certainly
there's a number of guys that you could make an argument for, and if you wanted to put them at the back end of the list, I'd say, that probably sounds right.
Yeah, there's certainly a group of guys that you could see jump into that top 10. And Xavier Robinson, if he can have another good year and put it all together for one season, he'd be another one. Jacoby Johnson, like you mentioned, I think Gentry Williams, if he's healthy, he's probably a top 10 player if he's healthy. So, I think a few receivers have something to prove. So there's a lot of guys.
No doubt about it. All right, it has been a little bit of a talk around the college football world just in terms of everybody's trying to make a little bit more scratch, right? The logo thing has become quite the, controversy, if you want to say it. LSU plans to sell jersey patch advertisements on their uniforms. This was a report coming out from the On 3 this week, or from the NOLA News via On 3, but you get the idea. I would say, first off, how do you feel about that? I feel like I said on the radio this morning, so many things in college football can kind of be, described as disgusting right now. You got to pick your battles. This is a battle that I'm just not willing to fight.
Yeah,
I hated it when the NBA started doing it.
Yeah.
Now I don't even notice it.
Well, and you look at like professional soccer in Europe, and it's been a thing for a long time.
Sure.
It's on the front of their jerseys, more so than even the names of the teams sometimes. So it's one of those things that they have to probably end up doing, and they make a lot of money. And look, if you can get on there and you get $10 million more a year, then it's probably worth it. But it's definitely going to suck if they put like some weird patch on there. You know, I hated when they first put the Loves patch on there, and Loves has done some great things for Oklahoma. You would have to think that they would be maybe the leading candidate to be on the front of the jersey.
I think that if they are going to go and put patches on the uniforms, my one critique, I guess I would say, is it has to be something that is exclusive to the region, if that makes sense. Like, you can't have somebody from a company from California trying to sponsor an OU
What about
uniform.
like Brahms?
Yeah, or like somebody.
And I would be more of a fan of like you put it on the back of the helmet. So
we're being told, get to the post by Carrie.
We got to get
to the
Carrie
post.
Mike on here so he can just yell.
Mid first or Loves incoming. How bad do you want it, Gabe? Talking about Gabe Eichert and his connection to the Loves family, obviously. Mid first or Loves, I think those would be 1A, 1B, right?
Yeah. And then I would put Brahms up there, maybe Quick Trip. I don't think it. Okay,
well, then
Carrie,
just put them up, Carrie.
Put the post up.
Is this how Sugars makes a comeback? No, I think Sugars is dead. Cody Drug RX, I'm sure Will would love that. Footy has been doing this for years with having an annual primary sponsor. The team logo is actually a small patch. Hate to see it for college football, but in today's environment, it seems inevitable. Yeah, I mean, it definitely does seem inevitable. I think all of these schools, once one, I think it almost kind of like took one to do it, and now everybody else is going to jump in.
Especially in the SEC. I mean, again, if you can get, more money, why would you not do it? What about Eskridge Lexus? There you go, Brahms.
Brahms would be good. How good were those shirts? I know you bought one for the championship.
Shirt. It's awesome. Curbside.
Pretty sick. I love that.
They sold out too.
And then obviously our buddies over at QT. I'm sure the QT would love to get involved. I think that they have it on the Royals and the Cardinals, I'm told.
And it would work with the
baseball
red.
uniforms.
I know it's a little bit different red, but you want some red in there so it kind of blends in just a little bit with the jersey.
And maybe that's what it is about the Thunder and the yellow with the Luz. I think it just like makes sense to me now almost. We've gotten so used to it.
Yeah, it's just part of it.
No doubt about it. All right, that is going to do it for this week's Around the Quarter. We will reconvene on Monday post-holiday celebration. Everybody have a safe 4th of July weekend as you make your travels across the state of Oklahoma to the lakes and all the places that you may be going.
What are you doing this weekend?
Playing a little golf and then probably participate against some fireworks at some point.
Heck yeah. Don't blow your hand off.
Urban fireworks. And it's rained outside, so nobody's going to burn their house down now.
Are you one of the ones that will hold the candlesticks?
No, I'm more of sit in the back and drink beer and let everybody else do the fireworks. But I do enjoy being a part.
Yeah.
All right. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.